Hello everyone, it is Kim from Tabletop Gaming Guild and I am back today with a review of a new game called Mantis Falls, a game of trust. This is a 2 to 3 player game and it is made by Distant Rabbit Games. I would say that probably ages 15 and up for this game. It is a little bit complex. But I'm going to get into it here in a moment, take you down to the tabletop and do a little bit of a walkthrough for you. Alrighty everybody, so let's go ahead and take a look at how this game setup works. Some of the first things that you're going to want to do are to shuffle up the roll cards. Now remember that this is a game for 2 to 3 people. So if you have 2 players, you'll need 3 roll cards. And if you have 3 players, you'll need 4 roll cards. You'll shuffle them up and deal them out. And remember that you will end up being either an assassin or a witness. If you are a witness, your goal is to get to the end of the road. And if you're an assassin, your goal is to kill the other person before the end of the road. Those will be kept quiet at all times. Each person will then pick a life tracker and a character. Now, remember that there are special rules for 3 people. Those are in the triad cards. And then once you play through the game once or twice and you understand how it works, you want to add the full circle cards in as well. There is also a way to amp up the game even more with the Under the Rose cards, but we're just going to play with the basic deck so you can understand the generalized process. But in those extra decks are other special character cards that'll be a little bit different. But for now, we know that we are an Urbanite and that our max wounds are 8. So we get our corresponding mover for ourselves. We also want to make sure that we get our reference cards for while we play the game. So there are cards for everybody. And you want to make sure you have 2. One explains how the conserved energy works, and then also has the turn sequence movement. And then the other one has how the last gasps work, and also how the game ends and who wins, depending on what happens. So you want to make sure you've got those ready. And then to lay out the cards, notice that we've got all sorts of different places that we put our cards. We've got our action cards, our event cards, both in the draw piles. Over here we'll have our ally cards. And then notice the road. You're going to follow this sort of like snaking pattern. So we start at sunset. And there are 5 of those cards. You want to find the one that says start of the road and put that one first. These 4 cards we're going to shuffle and set one aside and then lay them out here. And then we're going to get our road at night cards. And again, there are 5, so we'll shuffle them. 4 will go here. And then this one will hide over here. And then we've got our road at dark cards. We want to find the end of the road. And then the other ones we will shuffle and lay out as such. Okay? So whenever we are ready to get started, we will put our characters and we'll lay out a second character as well, just so you can see how the movement goes. We'll pretend that there are 2 of us playing, both starting at the road. Now, the directions and all of the online information say that this game is really played above the table, meaning that there's a lot of discussion, a lot of, comments made like, oh, a witness would do that, or an assassin would do that, and so forth. So really what I'm going to walk you through here is just the basic movement of how you get through the game itself. So wherever you are on the game board, you will always be able to see one card in front of you. So, as our turn sequence card tells us, the first thing that we're going to do is move one road forward and flip over the card that's in front. The next action that you take is to draw an event card. Now, in that first movement, you can also expend the energy up here that's been conserved, but on your first turn, you won't be able to do that because there's no energy up there. So the event itself, you will pull, and there are two types of events that you can pull. One is seen and one is unseen. The seen ones you can flip up and share with everyone. The unseen cards you may not. You keep those to yourself. So whenever we see the event that occurs, we have to decide how it is we're going to work through it. Now, based on the type of card it is, there are a couple of different things that you can do. Okay. One other thing we want to make sure that I forgot to do ahead of time, each person is going to have 7 of these action cards. And in our deck of action cards, we're going to see that there are different suits, and those are designated by these little emblems in the upper left hand corner. So these cards that say call in a hit are part of your hand, part of the actions that you can then complete. Otherwise, if we take a look at all of the different action cards, you'll see all of these different suits, and they will come into play here pretty directly. So we will have a random set of 7 in our hand. And there are some events that you simply deal with together. So, for example, this event is to be a hooligan who is coming after you and the other person that you are with. So this person's health is equal to the number of condition cards controlled by you and the other player. Now, there are certain cards in the action deck that are condition cards, but if you don't have any to begin with, then this would be a very easy event to defeat. But let's pretend for a moment that we had a total of 3 condition cards between the two of us. That would mean that the person we're going up against has 3 health and we have to defeat him. If we do not beat this character, then we receive wounds 4, according to here, divided as since I drew the card, as I see fit. If we defeat him, nothing happens, but we don't get any wounds. So how do we defeat these seen opposition? Well, that's going to depend on the cards that you have in your hand. All right? So you are going to decide individually, you and the other player, what cards it is that you would like to play to try to defeat this opposition. The trick is, though, if you want to play more than one card, the cards you're playing have to be of the same suit. So even though, for example, this pocket knife that I have deals 1 wound, if I don't have any other cards of that suit, this is the only card that I'm going to be able to play. So if we look at the other cards that I have, these 3 cards suit together, but they really don't do any damage. So I'm thinking to myself that I probably don't want to play that right now. So here's an example of a condition card that you could have laying out. And you can play these cards now to allow things to happen later on. But based on this event, we probably want to do our best to fight back against it. So here's a card that we could play. If I were playing, I might lean toward this one, since it's kind of early in the game. So I have a grenade that will deal 4 wounds to the event, which would be able to kill off this event. But notice that we would then have to divide 2 wounds between ourselves. And our goal is to get to the end of the road alive. And obviously, the more wounds you have, the less chance of you reaching there alive. But having played the game, I know that you're going to probably end up with wounds. So it's kind of a decision if you want to try or not. So what I am going to do personally is I'm going to lay this card face down in front of me, because I'm going to play it. And then the other person will also decide what they're going to play. So just for funsies, I won't show you what they're going to play, and we'll get to see how all of this plays out together. Alrighty. So we'll say that I have played a card, and so has my companion. If there are more than 1 cards played, you're going to resolve them in a back and forth pattern. So I would flip my card and look at it first, and then the other player would flip their card. If I had another card that I was playing, it would be flipped as well. So we would go in this sort of back and forth pattern and hopefully kill off the opposition. We can also talk amongst ourselves and have a conversation about the type of cards that we're going to play, but we can't read from the cards directly. So the idea is that we're trying to communicate so we can defeat this opposition. So I say, okay, I'm going to play my card, and I flip it over, and it's the grenade. So that kills the opposition. We defeat this event, so we put it in the discard pile. But we each receive, and since I, as we all know, since we saw my card, I am a witness, I'm going to say that I hope you're a witness too. So we'll split these wounds. We will each take 1. So I will move up 1 on my wound tracker, and then I'll discard this card into the pile. And then we'll say that my player says, well, here's the card I played. And it is the Night Owl card, which means they get to move and deal a wound to the other player. Little did I know that the role, that card they have hidden, is that they're the assassin. Now, is it the best strategy to try and kill your partner as the assassin in the first turn? That's kind of up for you to decide. But once we reveal our action cards, then we decide how we're going to process the event, and it now becomes the next person's turn. We draw up to make sure we always have 7 cards, unless we have some sort of ally card that allows us to do something else. And there are action cards that allow you to get ally cards. And if we look at the turn sequence, in this main play section here in the middle, we created an action play, but let's say I didn't have anything good in my hand. I couldn't play anything really good. So I decided that instead, I wanted to place one of my action cards into the conserved energy. I could do that, and that could count as my turn. I could also look to my cards and say, boy, I have some ones that just aren't very good right now, so I'm going to discard 2 as part of my main play. Or you could also just simply do nothing and just continue on. So this is how the game proceeds, snaking through, doing your best to reach the end of the road. Now, there are some other things that happen along the road. For example, as you go through, you may come across this broken road, which requires you to be able to move past it. And there are only certain ways, certain times, certain cards that allow you to move twice. You can also cash in the conserved energy to be able to move past the broken road. These little numbers here correspond to different events that can occur one way or the other. Sometimes they correspond to the number of wounds that you get. Sometimes they correspond to the amount that you heal. There are action cards that do allow you to heal. So that is the goal of the game. It is to get to the end if you are a witness, and it is to knock off the other person if you are the assassin. So let's go ahead and come back from the tabletop so I can offer you my final thoughts on the game itself. So, final thoughts on Mantis Falls. I have to say that this game grabbed my attention because of just how cool it looks. And I didn't get to show this in the unboxing, but look at the inside of the lid. It's very cool. The whole premise is very neat. This idea that you're in a mob-controlled town and you've seen something that you shouldn't see, or you know somebody who saw something they shouldn't see and you're working to get rid of them. It's a very cool concept. I love the little bags that you get. I love the game board itself being a cloth. I think that's a really nice touch. I love that they've given you these little, this big booklet that has different strategies and whatnot. I gotta say though, it was hard for me to learn. I watched a couple of videos, I read the directions, I read them again, and it took a while for everything to click for me. There are a lot of moving parts, figuratively, not literally, because really you're just playing with cards. So I would say that if you are somebody that you struggle with very thick rule books, because the rule book is, there are 24 different categories of rules that you're going to read through. I would say to just stick with it. I am happy that I did, but it's definitely not a game that you're going to sit down and learn in 5 minutes or teach your friend in 5 minutes. So I would just be prepared for that there is a bit of a learning curve, but I am excited to add in all of the extra things that I showed you on the tabletop. So if you are somebody who enjoys these games where there's a lot of banter that goes on between you and the other people, and you like games that are sometimes, like the box says, sometimes cooperative, then you're gonna love this game. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, if there are any games you would think I would like, please mention them in the comments section for me. Like this video, share it with your friends, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.